Welcome back. So the question is, can you think of a parable in Scripture that applies to Alan and Judy? And the parable that I was thinking about was the parable of the rich fool in Luke chapter 12. In this parable, God blessed this farmer with a huge crop. Rather than looking up to God and seeking God's wisdom and direction as to what he should do with such a large surplus, instead the farmer said to himself, "This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store all my grain and all my goods. I'll say to myself, you have plenty of good things laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." And in Luke 12:20, Christ makes it clear that the hoarding of money and material things is incredibly foolish from an eternal perspective. In other words, Alan and Judy's problem is not that they have a successful business. There's nothing wrong with that. God entrusted many godly men in Scripture, Abraham, Solomon, Job, David, with tremendous amounts of wealth. The issue is, or the problem is that they're hoarding, and they're not acknowledging that it is God who has given them the ability to develop a successful business. In Deuteronomy 8:17 and 18 it says, "You may say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is God who gives you the ability to produce wealth." In other words, Alan and Judy need to learn that they are stewards of the money and the business that God has entrusted to them, Haggai 2:8, and that biblical stewardship will be discussed in a later session, in session 2. But they need to understand they're stewards, and they also need to understand that as they focus their time and their energy on building their business beyond what they really need to do, they have 5 times what they need for retirement. It hinders their relationship with God. It will likely hinder their relationship with their children. And they're actually building up treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and thieves break in and steal. Treasures on earth which are very temporary in nature. They need to develop an eternal perspective, make the paradigm shift from the temporal to the eternal, and start focusing on things of eternal value. Among other things that they need to do, they need to start giving generously to God's work. In this case, likely way beyond the tithe. They need to start building up some treasures in heaven and doing things that have eternal impact, as opposed to just building and building and accumulating their business and temporary assets such as money. As Paul said, we brought nothing into this world, we shall take nothing out of it. So here's the third question. If you were their financial coach or advisor, what advice would you give them? The video will stop. Give it some thought. Write down your answer, and then click on the next video for the suggested solution.